One of the coolest things about the original Xbox was its built-in Ethernet port, the first of its kind on any console. While Sega had the vision to bring its games online with the Dreamcast, broadband technology wasn't quite ready at the time. The Dreamcast came standard with a built-in 33.6K dial-up modem, which you could upgrade to a broadband adapter later on, but as we know, the Dreamcast did not survive much longer. Still, if you ever used SegaNet and played online games such as Phantasy Star Online, Quake and others, you probably really had a lot of fun. When Microsoft announced the Xbox in 2001, they had stiff competition from Sony and Nintendo. They had to knock it out of the park. Specification-wise, they delivered the goods. The most powerful console with a massive, at the time, 8GB hard disk, DirectX capable graphics, and built-in Ethernet for online gaming with Xbox Live that was due to arrive 1 year later after the launch in November of 2002. And of course, there was Halo Combat Evolved. As a launch title, it was brilliant. The story, the graphics, the gameplay mechanics, the control scheme that set the standard for all console-based FPSs as we know it to this day, Halo was an absolute masterpiece, and you could even play with your friends. Before Xbox Live, Microsoft wanted games to utilize the Ethernet port, so they came up with a very simple way to connect up multiple Xboxes and play games offline in a local area network or LAN. It was known as System Link, and it's still being supported 17 years later on the Xbox One X. System Link is simply multiplayer gaming on the same network. It's the equivalent of LAN games you'd play on your PC or any direct link-up style games you'd play via a serial connection in the 80s and 90s. System Link was a hit when the Xbox launched. Xbox Live was still 1 year away, but it filled the void nicely. Halo allowed for 4 consoles to be wired together, each with 4 players split screen to have a total of 16 players in multiplayer. What this meant was you could bring your Xbox over to your friend's house and all play together. This was the dawn of the Halo LAN parties. Xbox Live was Microsoft's killer app. They'd seen the missteps with the Dreamcast and they wanted to deliver online gaming via broadband to the masses. Xbox Live was very successful for Microsoft, and by 2005 there were 5 million registered users, with growth to more than 23 million by 2010. But System Link was still very much supported. Over 150 original Xbox titles utilized System Link, and around this time tunneling software was developed known as XB Connect or Xlink Kai that allowed System Link games to be played over the internet. This became very popular with modded Xbox consoles. Setting up System Link is simple. You need at least 2 original Xboxes and either 2 Cat5 network cables and a router, or a single crossover cable. For each console you're connecting, you must have 1 individual copy of a System Link capable game. Of course, if you use a modded Xbox, you can get away with running a game just from the hard disk, but the game must be identical. In other words, you can't mix and match, say, a greatest hits version of 007 Agent Under Fire with the regular edition. If you're using a router, just plug both network cables into the router. Now when you load the game on both Xboxes, in the multiplayer menu you should see the System Link option. One Xbox will create the multiplayer game and the other will connect to it. And that's all you need to do. There's no configuring of the network, IP addresses or any stuff like that. It's simple and it just works. Because of its simple design and the fact that no network traffic was encrypted between Xbox machines, it meant that Homebrew developers were able to utilize System Link in their own Homebrew ports, and one great example of Homebrew that does work with System Link is Doom. The Homebrew Xbox port of Doom, known as Doom X, has a simple System Link option to establish the host and the other Xbox to join the game. You'll be trying to use a rocket launcher on your opponent in no time. Doom X allows for up to 4 players to join up together, and there is other Xbox Homebrew to look at that supports System Link, including Quake, Quake 2, Rise of the Triad, and Duke Nukem 3D. After the original Xbox was discontinued and the Xbox 360 became the current generation of console at the time, it was easy to forget about System Link even being a thing. But it never went away. With Xbox Live embedded completely into the Xbox 360 system kernel and dashboard, meant that the majority of the user base were playing games online. However, System Link was beefed up even further on the Xbox 360, supporting up to 16 consoles, and there were over 200 titles that supported it, with games like Halo 3, Call of Duty, Gears of War and Forza meant LAN parties were still very popular, with up to 16 players capable of joining a single game. Although Microsoft discontinued the original Xbox Live 1.0 in 2010, just like life before Xbox Live, System Link always worked. And with X-Link Kai tunneling software meant that users could still play Halo 2 online over the internet with people around the world. While it was missing features from Xbox Live, it was still lots of fun, and the Halo LAN parties continued. One of the biggest announcements made during the reveal of the Xbox 360 was backward compatibility with original Xbox games. With over 450 original Xbox titles supported, it meant many of the classics could be relived. And as it turns out, System Link was fully supported on these games too. What this meant was you could System Link Halo 2 on the original Xbox and Xbox 360 together under backward compatibility. And guess what? It ran great. Microsoft could have easily have omitted System Link as a feature on backward compatibility titles, but they kept it intact, and it's a massive feature. Now, if you wanted to have that Halo 2 LAN, but your original Xbox was long gone, an Xbox 360 and a copy of the game running under backward compatibility works just as well. It's worth mentioning that although the Xbox 360 does support System Link and of course Xbox Live, one restriction that was applied to the Xbox 360 was known as the 30 millisecond ping. So in other words, if you attempted to connect to an Xbox Live game and had a ping greater than 30 milliseconds, or attempted to connect to a System Link game with a ping greater than 30 milliseconds, the Xbox 360 would not connect you. Now the reason why they did this was to circumvent the use of tunneling software, in other words things like X-Link, because typically when you're connecting to System Link over X-Link via tunneling software, your ping is probably going to be greater than 30 milliseconds by design because you're connecting to different servers around the world. But the good news is with a modded Xbox 360, hackers of course found a way to remove that 30 millisecond restriction on Xbox 360s. In 2013, with the launch of the Xbox One, 2 generations after the original Xbox System Link, it's still a feature. Although it's fair to say that it's hardly used anymore, some games still pop up like Gears of War 4 and the Halo Master Chief Collection, which still have System Link options. Gears of War allows for up to 10-player multiplayer. When Microsoft announced backward compatibility with Xbox 360 titles, System Link was supported. Halo Reach runs great between consoles, even with the Xbox One emulating the Xbox 360. What's even cooler though is if you own an original Xbox, an Xbox 360 and an Xbox One. What's cool about this, you may ask? Well, with the announcement of backward compatible original Xbox titles, games that support System Link that run under backward compatibility on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One are supported too. In other words, you can connect up to 3 generations of Xbox together up on a single router and play System Link games together. 17 years apart but brought together by a simple feature Microsoft implemented in 2001 and never ignored. So of course I needed to test this out for myself, and the game that I used was Crimson Skies, developed and published by Microsoft in 2003. It's an arcade action flight combat game that's a ton of fun over multiplayer. This game was a hit during the original Xbox Live days, and it's still a blast to play. I already owned a copy of the game, so I ran out and purchased 2 more for cheap, connected Ethernet cables to the router, and launched the game on all 3 systems. I created a System Link game on the original Xbox, and the Xbox One and Xbox 360 recognized that game and launched into it. The game runs absolutely perfectly. One thing that I did not test but I'm assuming would work in the exact same way is wireless internet. Keep in mind, I haven't tested wireless connections on the Xbox One and Xbox 360. I wanted to eliminate as many variables as possible, so I kept things simple with all 3 consoles running wired Ethernet into a router. This would also work for games like Star Wars Battlefront, Jedi Academy, and Conker's Live and Reloaded. And with Microsoft announcing a few backward compatible original Xbox titles every month, I'm sure we'll see more games supported that run System Link. The ability to link up any Xbox together in any combination to play compatible System Link titles is fantastic and a very powerful feature. I can't think of any other console being capable of doing this, and here is hoping that with future generations of the Xbox, Microsoft never abandon the System Link feature and really invest more into backward compatibility, so these multiplayer experiences may never disappear. So there you have it, guys. That's the story of System Link on the original Xbox all the way up to the Xbox One, and it's so cool that you can connect 3 of these machines together and play games over System Link. I love the fact that this is even possible to do, and I definitely want to see Microsoft continue to support System Link in future revisions of the Xbox, and hopefully they will. I'm sure that this is something that will not disappear anytime soon. I'm sure there's a lot of you folks out there that like to do Halo LAN parties and stuff like that. I want to hear your experiences and your stories and your memories about these particular days in the original Xbox and Xbox 360 LAN party days, because that was so awesome. I love those old days of LANing with my friends. I want to hear your stories as well, so please let me know in the comments below. Well guys, I'm going to leave it here for this video. Thank you so much for watching. You know what to do if you like this video. Give me a thumbs up, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now. Behind you.
Oh, I don't know how to turn.
Use the other stick.
Get over here. Be still. Be still, you little...